Why dark night of the soul after spiritual awakening? There are some forces that guide and watch over our life actions. Though most of the time we want to think that we're mere mundane beings, we're not. Hence, when you live your life in a manner that's not in accordance with the spiritual path you're meant to follow, you would often be drawn back in by these guidelines. It might be caused by a series of events, or just one event, which would make you feel down. So down that you start to scrutinize your lives and your endeavors. Once you feel such emptiness that it makes you reflect, you're said to be facing the dark night of the soul. A dark reflective era you face to get your lives back on your supposed spiritual path, learn some life lessons, and gain spiritual awareness. It often pulls you inwards, so you'll get to learn a lot of things about yourself that you might not have known before. It might be personal things that might involve psychic powers, which you never noticed you had. Or no unique items, like essential, stuff your loved one left for you, that would be of enormous help for you at that time. Or your workmate, who poses to be your friend but never had your interests at heart. The dark night of the soul will make you calm, quiet, and observant to learn these things, so you can use them to your advantage and make a better life for yourself. It's essential to remember that it's not a happy process. Even though the benefits are massive when you're spiritually awakened, it's often a long, lonely journey that opens your mind to new possibilities. In some situations, some people find themselves repeating the dark night of the soul after being spiritually awakened. Such a scenario raises doubts about the vacation. Doubts like, is it that they didn't initially go through the dark night of the soul? More like faking it? Or they did, only that something is incorrect. One must explain the dark night of the soul and spiritual awakening to do this. There are questions we will be answering in this video to explain why we slip into the dark night of the soul after awakening. Dark night of the soul is a reflective, dark era that we often face before becoming spiritually aware of our lives. There are different views about the dark night of the soul because some people feel it's boring, while others think it's depressing. But these views all depend on personality, because whichever way you may feel, it's a journey you go on alone. Suppose you're an outdoor type who loves outdoor activities and gathers energy from meeting people and moving around. Well, in that case, the dark night of the soul is likely not to serve you so well, because you find yourself withdrawing into yourself and feeling that all these activities are just disturbing your life instead of loving it as you used to. However, the dark night of the soul is often pioneered by highly traumatic events, which leaves you in severe shock for a long time before you start facing this dark era. Other times, a less significant event can trigger the dark night of the soul, so the physical event that begins doesn't matter. Once the spirituals feel there are things you need to understand and follow, you seem to be drifting further away from it, not noticing the surrounding signs you're being shown. You're likely to find yourself in the dark night of the soul. After passing through the dark night of the soul and attaining spiritual awareness, some people find themselves repeating the same cycle of dark night of the soul and spiritual awareness, which is troubling. Because after the dark night of the soul comes enlightenment, spiritual awakening. After the dark night of the soul, there's a birth of a new you who will be spiritually aware of their environment, back on track with their spiritual path, and feel better and suitable with all their life endeavors again. And you're supposed to understand life a bit more, get connected with yourself more, and stay put on a deemed spiritual path, which will further keep you comfortable with your physical life. If this is to be your supposed fate, or usually your chance for a short period after the dark night of the soul, then it might be for one of the following reasons. Unawareness about the message. Even though you've been welcomed into the world of spiritual enlightenment, all things seem to work accordingly. There can be new messages from the spirit world, which you're expected to decode and understand or act on over time. Because, depending on your agreement at the source, you laid out a lot to accomplish, and you need some of these messages to get to do them. But you are a newbie in spirituality. You might not notice the spiritual signs sent to you to enable more enlightenment. And if such lingers to a potential where it might cause more significant damage if you don't pick up those signs, you will likely fall into the dark night of the soul again. Refusal to embark on spiritual escapades. Though spirituality and Christianity have their differences, they still share some similarities. Even though you're aware of spirituality and decide not to embark on a particular spiritual journey because of your emotions, you will likely find yourself in the dark night of the soul again, just like the Bible story of Jonah and the fish. Even though he's a spiritual man who communicates with God, he ignores the spiritual escapades he was sent on. He was swallowed by a big fish and vomited out when he agreed to follow what he was to do. Just that in your case, there will be no fish. Instead, the dark night of the soul. Fallout, of course. Even in our daily lives, we use the saying of sparing the rod and spoiling the child. It's an adage that says sometimes severe action has to be in place for people to get back on track with what they're meant to do. Hence, if a sojourner falls out of their way before being spiritually awakened, maybe he goes back to the things of the world in pursuit of happiness. The dark night of the soul will likely descend into the person's life. So, if you fall out of the course and seem not to see the signs calling you back into spirituality, another dark night of the soul is on the way. In conclusion, many other things can bring you back to the dark night of the soul, depending on what your spirituality needs at the time. Always remember that responsibilities come with all types of awareness. So focus and take care of your spiritual responsibilities. Be observant and notice repeating signs and patterns. If you do this, you're likely to break the cycle. But if you don't, you're likely to have repeating cycles of the dark night of the soul, and no external help can get you out of it.
Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon to be notified of subsequent updates. Thanks for watching!